I looked this up online, and it's called The Cost of Being a Disciple. This is something that this series of passages I heard in church, and I thought that they were perfect actually for martial arts in terms of what type of martial arts teacher you don't want. See, Jesus, God, that's who you're supposed to follow very hard to the exclusion of, other people's leadership. That doesn't mean you don't listen to anybody that's on earth. Because if you're really following God, God will let you know that authority figure told you right. Why are you tripping? You know they told you the right thing. You're supposed to be listening to that particular authority figure. And then he'll also tell you, now this other authority figure that you want to swear your allegiance to, they're not a good person. Why are you following that person? Because one authority figure will be taking you towards God. And the other authority figure, the bad one, will be taking you away from God and towards themselves. Not pointing you towards the path of Christ. You see. So let me start reading. This is Luke chapter 14, verses 25 to 34. Great crowds were following him. He turned around and addressed them as follows. Anyone who wants to be my follower must love me far more than he does his own father, mother, wife, children, brother, sister, yes, even his own life. Otherwise, he cannot be my disciple, and no one can be my disciple who does not carry his own cross and follow me. See, that's what Jesus will do for you. But let me make this clear. Jesus only turns you against your family if your family's wicked. If your family is good, Jesus is not going to cause a rift. But let's say the family business is murder, and you're a murderer, and you find Jesus tells you shouldn't murder, then of course you're going to be at odds with your family members because they're murderers. They're doing something they shouldn't be doing. Same thing if they're idolaters, thieves, liars, or anything else. Jesus will tell you to stop following them. Let's keep going. But don't begin until you count the cost. For who will begin construction of a building without first getting estimates and then checking to see if he has enough money to pay the bills? So, let's take it back to martial arts. So don't sign martial arts contracts unless you can afford them. You think about that in advance. You find out what all the fees are in advance. But some of us teach without all of these weird fees. Or if there are any costs, we let you know what they are up front. Those are the good teachers. The ones who let you know not the ones who are dirt cheap is necessarily the best teachers. The ones who let you know the cost up front and let you make the decision. That's the good teacher. And it doesn't have to just be martial arts, but let me keep going. Otherwise, he might complete only the foundation before running out of funds. And how everyone would laugh. See that fellow there? They would mock. He had started that building and ran out of money before it was finished. Now you see, building your martial arts skills is like building a house. It's like building a foundation. And you should only be training at places that you can afford to pay for. But see, Jesus doesn't want to be all up in your pockets. Does he ask people to tithe? Yes. Does he ask people to give offerings? Yes. Jesus will never, ever, ever, ever expect you to give more to a church than you can comfortably give. He doesn't do that. Because if you look at the scriptures on tithing, if you read the whole thing, once they come into that money, that excess that they finally got because they listened to God and he blessed them, they're so happy that they've tithed. They aren't giving up 10% when they don't even have 1% to give anybody. So think about that the next time you want to pay $3,000 for a first-degree black belt. Now let me keep going. Or what king would ever dream of going to war without first sitting down with his counselors and discussing whether his army of 10,000 is strong enough to defeat the army of 20,000 men who are marching against them. You're a king in your life, or queen or royalty in your life, and if you can't afford time-wise to attend classes, if the schedule is too much for you, why are you training with that person? It's not a good teacher for you. Let's keep going. If the decision is negative, then while the enemy troops are still far away, he will send a truce team to discuss terms of peace, so that no one can become my disciple unless he first sits down and counts his blessings and then renounces them all for me. You should be renouncing your blessings for God, for Jesus, not for a person. And does he mean for you to just throw away everything you've accomplished in life? No. He just means, in my opinion, that you don't place so much value on your stuff that you put your stuff before God. And you'll find that, when you put God up there, you get more stuff. But you don't follow God to get more. You don't follow God to get more stuff. Because you're following God, you get more stuff. Sounds like a Zen code, but it's not. It's just the way it is. It's hard to explain, but it's something I've seen too. It's like the more you do right. Well, for those of you who believe in karma, I guess you could call it that. Sow and reap. Let's keep going. What good is salt that has lost its saltiness? Flavorless salt is fit for nothing, not even for fertilizer. It is worthless and must be thrown out. Listen well if you would understand my meaning. The flavorless salt is really, in a martial arts context, if there's any salt that's lost its flavor, it's any instructors or organizations that want to make it so that they're more important in your life than God. You should not follow anybody who thinks that they're more important in your life than God. Now let me say this before I go. Sometimes it's not them that's making themselves more important than God. Meaning sometimes it's not the instructor that's making themselves more important than God in your life. It's you that's making those instructors more important than God in your life. So don't always try to, we always love to warn people away from the bad instructors. But us as students, we have to remember that these people are just people. They're just men. They're not God. Even if they can do some of the rumored spooky supernatural things, or they do things that just flat out amaze you. Some people are amazed that a guy my age can do a jump split V kick. Whatever. You're not God. Your instructors are not God. Stop deifying them. Put God first. And see, this whole thing about how you would love God more than your family, your wife, your children, your brothers and sisters. You should not love your instructors, your martial arts organization, or your style more than your family. If you do, you may be the one who has a problem. It's not necessarily a style. Although it could be, because they could be using brainwashing cult tactics on you. Just check yourself. Check to see that you're not just handing your mind over and they're not trying to manipulate. But if they are trying to manipulate, then you know. Either way, though, you may have to cut ties and get yourself, especially if you're a Christian, back right with God. So, I'm going to call this video The Cost of Being a Disciple, because I saw that thing online. He called this section The Cost of Being a Disciple. So, leave your comments if you want. Share some stories about how you felt like you paid too steep of a cost of being a disciple, if you like. Peace.